have a nasty habit. Well, it's actually a healthy habit of deleting my YouTube app when I'm not using it for work because I really need to focus. And that is a distraction app for me. So I need to actually re-download it so I can keep up with the live chat. Awesome. Nasty habit. Okay, cool. I think you guys should all be able to hear me on YouTube. I just heard myself, but I'm gonna check in here with the chat and the YouTube community and see, can you guys hear me? Welcome. Hello. If you guys can hear me, then we're gonna go ahead and dive in. Really excited to be here with you guys. Let's see. Are you guys able to hear me on YouTube? Cool. Just you make sure I'm muted. Yes. Izzy says yes. MY says yes. Amazing. Love this. Thanks. Thanks, MY. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Ben and Kenny and Nettie. Really appreciate it. Okay. And thanks to everyone who's here live. I always appreciate when you guys can listen to any portion that you're able to. I know that not everyone can stay for the whole time. This will remain here on YouTube for you to listen to later. If you want to come back to this, the opportunity to do that will be there. Thanks for the hearts, guys. I love seeing those hearts go up. That is so fun to me. All right. Well, without further ado, we are going to get started. Thanks, Kylie. Always love to have you here. If you guys have any questions while we're live, Kylie, our fabulous moderator, will be able to answer them for you. I am joined today by a special community called Star Club, which is my community for learning, sharing, and practicing astrology with me. And if you'd like to get on the wait list to join us for Star Club, you absolutely can. The next enrollment won't be until 2025. And in that, when we get into that enrollment period, you'll be able to join then. But until then, when I do Q&A live here on YouTube, priority will be given to current members of Star Club. So let me go ahead and share screen so that you guys can see the chart I'm looking at. And we admit some of the Star Clubbers to our Zoom room. Hey, Maria and Maya, welcome. And where's the share screen button? There we go. Oh, awesome. So great to have you, Kylie. Thank you. Amazing. Okay, wait, it should have shared. Let's try that button again. There we go. Awesome. Okay. A few quick announcements before we begin. Thank you to everyone who signed up to do end of year readings with me in the month of December. There are now only two 30-minute readings left for December, one on the 6th and one next Friday. If you want to make sure that we talk before we close the year, now is the time to book, especially if you want one of those relationship readings as we close the eclipse window. It was a very relationship focused eclipse. If you want a synastry reading of your chart and somebody else's chart, check compatibility. Now is the time to book that because those will be going back in the vault until we get to the Venus retrograde in 2025 this month. Tonight at midnight is a second announcement. Couples readings that are 30% off. That savings code will be released on the community page. and it will be available for 24 hours only. It will expire at 11:59 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. The couples reading is for two people who want to come together for a 90-minute session. And if you're on the private list, you did receive your code early for a total of 40% off, but that's only available to tonight. Once we give the code to the YouTube community, it is 30% off. So be sure to book if you need that. And thank you to everyone who has signed up for the parent-child reading and the 1 hour personal reading every Friday during the month of December and the last week of November. I did a 24-hour 30% off savings with different readings each Friday. If you're on the private list, you're getting that notification 24 hours early, so you got a full 48 hours. But if you're here on YouTube and you don't want to get on the private list, just make sure you're subscribed, and you're checking the community page on Fridays. The next 1 hour reading, or the next savings 30% off this Friday, like I mentioned, is the couples reading. Next Friday, I believe, is the twin flame reading, now known as the relationship reading, your chart, their chart, and the chart of the union. And then the final Friday will be the two parents, one child reading. So if you want to get that, you can. That's a 90-minute reading as well. Let's go ahead and get into the best dates for love and money for 2025. Feel free to take notes in a notebook, pause, come back. If you've got questions, hold them until the end. I'll take questions at the end, starting with my star clubbers first. And if you want to take notes in the comments section and then save this video to your playlist, you can. That way you can come back and see your notes about which dates are going to be important for you. Okay. Best dates, after having researched this information, gotta be honest, the best dates for love and for money in 2025, at least for love, are really going to be in the second half of the year. The first half of the year features both the Mars retrograde, Venus retrograde, and her higher octave, Juno retrograde throughout the spring and shadow period closing in early summer, at least for Venus, and then late spring for Mars. This is really going to make next year, at least the first half of it, a lot about dealing with the past, cleaning up the past, putting periods on sentences, making sure that if we said we're done, we're actually done. We've forgiven, we've released, we've let go, and we've got a clean slate, heart and mind to move forward with. Alternatively, for some of you, this is actually going to put a semicolon at the end of that sentence so that you and a person from your past can carry on and move forward together. Again, clean slate, heart and mind, new beginning, fresh ground. We're not dragging the past and things that happened in the past into our clean slate. And so, one of the things that I'm going to talk to you guys about, I'm really going to walk you through specifically the Mars and the Venus retrogrades and specific dates to pay attention to first. When it comes to that, the Mars is going to be more, it's going to enhance the financial focus of the Venus retrograde. The Venus retrograde is really going to be both about love and about money for different people, depending upon where you're focused in your life, and your chart will really hold the keys to where you're supposed to be focused. That way, if you need to be dealing with a financial issue, you're not running in the streets trying to find a love interest, or vice versa, trying to focus on money when love is pounding on your door. Your chart will really show this energy for you so that you can know for yourself, like, where am I supposed to be focused. But today I'm going to give you kind of an overview of all the dates so that you can pick and choose what you really want to focus on. the second half of the year, because there aren't Venus, Mars, and Juno retrograde, we will get more focused on specific dates to pay attention to, and they're a lot more fun. There are warning dates um, that I will talk to you about as we move through 2025, where things look a little messy, complicated, things you want to avoid during certain periods of time. I will give those to you as we move through each lunation of 2025 rather than today. Today, I really wanted to focus on the good news, the things you can look forward to in 2025. The retrogrades specifically do have a couple of warnings to them. So, where those are pertinent, I will walk you through them. And the Juno retrograde specifically has so much relationship heavy sort of focal points to it that I'm going to do that completely separately so that this doesn't get too long, and do one specifically for the divine counterpart soulmates twin flame collective, because next year is going to be an extraordinarily pivotal year for those of you who consider yourselves on that specific journey. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. We're going to start with the Venus retrograde. Shout out to everyone who's here. If you wouldn't mind giving the video a thumbs up on YouTube, that helps the algorithm circulate the content. We are going to start with the Venus retrograde. I'm going to give you the dates. So Venus retrograde really begins the shadow period January 28th of 2025. And the shadow period is just when Venus begins the process of being in the place where she'll retrograde back to for the first time. So I'll just show you that date now. We will also see her retrograde on March 2nd, give or take a day, depending upon which hemisphere you live in, Eastern or Western. The one thing about this for you is that some people will experience this on the second, some people on the first, just depending. Okay. And then Venus will complete retrograde on April 13th. For some of you, it'll be the 12th. And then she'll come out of shadow, meaning she'll stop dealing with all of the things that have been a part of her retrograde process. It'll fully come to completion on May 16th of 2025. So write those dates down for yourself, because the things that I'm going to share with you now will be a part of the major themes for this Venus retrograde. So starting with January 28th, we see her enter the retrograde zone at the 24th degree of Pisces. This is where she begins the process of revealing to us, here's what you personally are going to have to deal with in all areas of life that are Venus governed. Now, for some of you, it's going to be friendships. For others, it'll be money. For others, it'll be health. Just depends on what houses in your natal chart are governed by Venus. But for all of us collectively, Venus represents receptivity, connection, and chemistry, that emotion of love and infatuation. She can represent connection, like I said, but in shadow, she can go from connection to attachment, right? She can take the bond beyond connection and be an attachment. She also represents our beauty standards and what we consider attractive collectively. Venus will also, generally speaking, represent our values. And of course, under the umbrella of values, we certainly include money, but it's not limited to money. We certainly also have many other values. So, when Venus goes retrograde, it is an opportunity for us to review all things Venusian in our life, and in particular, the house that Venus governs in our personal natal charts. So, in this particular entering shadow period, we see Venus here at the 24th degree of Pisces. We see her conjunct Neptune, conjunct Saturn. We also see Venus in a place where she's trying Mars here, which is actually really great for certain things related to love and money. And we also see her in a trine to Juno, because Mars is in water, 21 degrees Cancer. Juno's in water, 26 degrees Scorp. Venus is in water, um, 24 degrees Pisces. This constitutes what we call as astrologers a grand water trine. It means the energy of these planets are all flowing together and harmonizing to formulate a singular energy. This configuration is going to, for many, activate some higher level love energy, especially because we also see Venus sextile Uranus, and Uranus also activating Juno, who will be in shadow at that point, preparing to go retrograde a little bit later. Uranus is the divine activator, the original divine counterpart. There are many in 2025. If you've been trying to find your soulmate, find your twin flame, find your divine counterpart, you will meet your divine complement in 2025, given the way Uranus is speaking to both Juno and Venus at the beginning of their retrogrades and throughout their retrograde seasons. Very possible that will happen. There are those who, with this particular beginning of the Venus retrograde, you will find that you may have some sort of resurfacing of a divine counterpart that you already met or already know. You will find that for many, because Venus and Juno will be retrograde, and Juno is that higher octave of Venus, you're also going to find as we get into the swing of 2025, especially the first 6 months of the year, people are going to circle back. You may even be the person who circles back, who reaches out to someone from your past because you feel like, for whatever reason in your heart, it's just not done or complete. You're curious what can happen if both of you start with a clean slate. So, this really kind of kicks some of that off. And actually, you'll see when we have the Mars retrograde, I'm going to do Mars retrograde last, but you will see that some of this energy really starts as early as this month, December of 2024. So keep this in mind as you move forward. There are, especially with the Neptune influence on Venus as she enters the retrograde zone, Neptune wants to wash away things. It wants to clear the decks. It wants to erase, dissolve, um, clean up, like clear out. And so the Neptunian influence, especially because Neptune will be influencing both Juno and Venus, this is really about coming to terms with what forgiveness really takes, what it would actually take to have a clean slate. If when you reach out to a person or a person reaches out to you, you have that internal flinch, that emotional flinching or tensing up, or you have that experience of like, well, what about my last message? And how come you didn't respond? And why didn't you do this? And you want to bring the past into the present. If you can't let go of the past, what this Neptunian influence throughout the Venus retrograde is going to do is support you in letting go of the person completely. And so there are some who do, like you will know this if this is you, where you really have this sort of hold over, stuck and frozen in time about things unresolved from the past that you just can't release. You may need to go through a longer period of purification and release and self-forgiveness and letting go and get some deeper wisdom around the impermanence of life, deception and illusion, imagination and intuition. These are Neptunian themes, so that you're able to walk into the next love connection with a wide aperture without feeling tight and closed. Neptune really wants things opened. And so this Neptunian kickoff to the Venus retrograde shadow period is going to help a lot of people get to a place where if you can let go of the past, you'll be invited, coached, poked, prodded, pulled, even through the realm of sleep and dreams, given the opportunity to just find yourself in a more neutral place. And likewise, you will, if for those who can't let go of the past, you'll be given the opportunity through this particular Venus and Juno retrograde to let go of the person. Okay. And that process does look like it takes a little bit longer. It might be all of 2025 and be and a little bit beyond. But this is how this is starting to show up as this sort of opportunity to detox memories, detox imagination, detox and release um, some of your imprints in relationship so that you can clear the decks for something new to happen. And this Venus retrograde for many is going to help them either clear the decks with a person or clear the decks for yourself so that love can come in. Okay. So, this is some of the main thematics to expect during the Venus retrograde in love. Now, where it comes to money and values with this Venus retrograde, a kickoff like this is really talking about getting true to your motivation, cutting closer to the bone, trimming the fat when it comes to what am I passionate about? What am I motivated to do? What is it I can commit to? And what is it that's just superfluous, fluff, distraction, time wasting, doesn't elevate me? Had a conversation with someone the other night, and they were telling me about how they had gotten invited from somebody from their past to hang out. They were going to be in town to visit family, but this person, really wanted to see the person I was talking to. They were like, "Hey, can you make time? I'm going to be in town to visit family." And this person says to me, like, with so much love, like, I just feel so obligated, but I don't really want to do it. Like, I think this person is into me. I'm not really into them. I kind of said yes, but I don't really feel like it. And I just said, okay, that's a hard no then. Don't do that. That's not what we're going to do in 2025. And so this Mars retrograde in Cancer, water sign Cancer, that's a feature as we start the Venus retrograde and Juno's already in shadow. This Mars retrograde is really showing us some emotional truth, that's Cancer, about our motivation, that's Mars, in a way that we cannot lie to ourselves about it anymore. And the communication between Uranus, Venus, Juno, all speaking to that Mars, is really going to reveal to us where we are carrying on attachments out of guilt versus being in true connection because we are in a place of love with that person, altruistic love, agape love, romantic love, right? Different kinds of love. This whole thing is trying to help us. The Venus retrograde kickoff is trying to help us get to the right location where love can find us. True love, real love. But if we're out here distracting ourselves with people we don't really want to mess around with, hanging on to the past and holding that over other people's head and holding our own love life hostage because of the past, we're going to find that this is going to be a problem. And so, thank goodness Venus retrograde, Juno retrograde, and Mars retrograde are all happening at the same time to break us out of those habits, the habituated ways of just like undermining our own highest imperatives in love. Again, where it comes to more generally speaking values, this kickoff to Venus retrograde is really going to show us, okay, yeah, I value this. I'm going to do this. I value that. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do this because I don't value it the way I maybe once did, or I'm not the same person, so I can't show up and interact with it in the way I previously have. I have to change the agreement, the boundaries, the commitment. That's Saturn and that's Juno. So, really beautiful energy for this Venus retrograde kickoff. Next date I want to bring to our attention is going to be March 2nd. This is also part of the Venus retrograde. But those themes I just laid out are going to be a focal point throughout. So let's just go to March 2nd. Actually, what I'm going to do is just edit the chart. So we'll just go to 3-2. And March 2nd is the date the retrograde fully begins. There we go. Okay, so in this chart, we see Venus sextile Jupiter. This is the beginning of the retrograde. So here's Venus retrograde on March 2nd. Here is Jupiter. There's a nice 60-degree angle between them. We also see Venus sextile Pluto as well. So this is going to be a financial review for many people. And we got some more big financial dates coming up, especially with the Mars retrograde as we close this year and enter next year. So pay attention to your financial stuff, guys. But this Pluto energy speaking to Venus as Venus goes retrograde, this is really going to provide I love the sextile angle for Venus with Jupiter, with Pluto, with Venus. I love to see this. I love the trine between Pluto and Jupiter. This is going to help us tighten up investments, move money to more modern financial instruments for some people, and financial products if you're an investor. But for people who really aren't as focused on investments, this is where you're going to be cleaning up and handling financial debt. You may even start investing at this point in time and learning about investment products, so that you're able to have a more secure future. For those of you who haven't handled things like your will or end of life insurances, this is where you want to take care of that. The energy is extraordinarily beneficial for personal wealth management and financial management as we get into the beginning of the Venus retrograde, really taking a look at that budget, your spending, maybe even moving to a new platform for personal finance. This is a fabulous time to do that. Hiring a financial advisor, switching your wealth advisor if you need to, or your financial planner. For those of you who run businesses, really taking a look at, is my bookkeeper doing enough for me? Is this the kind of bookkeeping I need? And for those of you who run financially based businesses, you work in finance, this is going to be a beautiful opportunity for you to really look over your client roster and check out, like, am I doing enough for these clients? Are they even the right clients for me? Are they a fit? Would I be better off switching my focus, narrowing my focus, etc.? Beautiful time for organizing anything related to finance and to your values. Now, once Venus retrograde starts, it is strongly classically recommended, and this again, March 2nd through April 13th. If you can avoid any new beauty treatments, you can avoid like tattoos, cutting yourself, bangs or fringe if you've never done that before, starting something you've never done before. Like, I know a lot of women and men are dealing with hair loss. If avoid starting a new treatment, anything you've never done before, as we get through March 2nd through April 13th. For those of you who really want to be sticklers about it, I would wait until after the shadow period ends on May 16th. Um, and then be in the clear. You may have some very different feelings about the beauty treatment or regimen that you undertake if it's new once the retrograde is complete and Venus is out of shadow. But if it's something you've done before, like you've put highlights in your hair, or you're getting a tattoo touched up, this kind of thing works very well under a Venus retrograde. Okay. So that's March 2nd as we start the Venus retrograde. Very beautiful energy there. This sextile between Jupiter and Mars also bodes well for love energy, too. Seems like there could be perchance some communication, but if you find that there's any withdrawal of a person or you yourself feel like you need to withdraw in a love relationship, uh, little communication can go a long way. We're fast forwarding now to March 21st. We have Venus sextile Jupiter. Oh, wait, hang on. There we go. Here it is. Now we see Mercury, we see Venus, we see the Sun, we see Neptune, all in a tight line. You could even include to some degree Saturn. It's a loose conjunction, but Saturn is there 10 degrees prior. All of this is going to be sextiling Pluto, all about power, confronting fear, handling what we call other people's money, money loaned, money coming in from inheritances or taxes, these sort of things. This March 21st time frame, we also see Mercury retrograde joining that Venus retrograde. So it's both love and consciousness and communication, values, and uh, kind of, like I said, consciousness and communication under review. This is a really beautiful time to handle debt. The financial review that I mentioned from the beginning of March deepens, new budgeting. We've got a very loose trine between Jupiter and Pluto here. Some astrologers wouldn't even call it that because Pluto's not at that fourth degree. And Jupiter's not at the 13th degree, but some of you are going to be sensitive enough to feel the enhancement energy between Jupiter and Pluto, which really enhances a lot of personal power during this period of time. For those of you who are investors, it's a great time to make investments in tech, in publishing, in travel. It just make sure you do your due diligence. It will be best if it is an investment that you passed on before and now you want to say yes to because the opportunity came back round again with Venus and Mercury retrograde. Anything you want to revisit from the past and come back into it, this is the right time to do it. In fact, it's a fabulous time to revisit some of your investments, like I said. And if there's anything you need to kind of move or reshape or just take a second look at, great opportunity to do it. Okay. Let's move forward. Next date I want to bring your attention to during the Venus retrograde is May 5th. So 5, 5. Oops. Let's go back and let's just look at that from the natal chart. I don't want to confuse people with transits. So let's talk about May 5th. Here we go. And so now, with the May 5th date, we're starting to see that Venus has completed her retrograde on April 13th. Actually, I wanted to take you to the 12th and the 13th as she completed that retrograde, give you guys some intel there. For 12 is the last day of the retrogrades. Let me show you that. Here we see Venus at that final degree before she turns direct. Here she is at the 24th degree of Pisces once again. Now, we also see her trine Mars as she completes the retrograde there. And we see her conjunct Saturn and Mercury. Really lovely energy here. Because Saturn and Mars have played such a dominating role, for many, Saturn is all about what it takes to make a commitment, to make a thing real in the third dimension. Saturn cuts off interferences with commitments and follow through. It removes them. And so Saturn transits, we can see it's not necessarily where love begins, but it's where love formalizes. And so throughout the course of this Venus retrograde, because Saturn has been playing a bit of a role here, there are some people who can and will find themselves entering into a committed bond, specifically with somebody from their past inside of this particular Venus retrograde because of the role Saturn has been playing here. We see Mars here fully out of not out of shadow, but out of retrograde, providing the motivation and the fuel to take that step into the commitment. And we see Venus here having us dealing with the past. So it's a really beautiful energy. Again, like I said, for those of you who can forgive and literally forget, like really not hold the past over someone's head or your own future or present over reconnection, like not hold the reconnection hostage by the past. They've grown, you've grown, you're both different people. Enter it with fresh eyes and an open heart if you can. You're going to see that this is going to open up for you the opportunity to come back into a love situation. Again, for those of you who are just not there, you're going to find that this is going to support you with recognizing certain personal boundaries, support you with recognizing personal values and where you really want to go from here in love. It's going to help you release and relinquish where you have been previously motivated, previously attached, so that you can get to a place of freedom to let love come in anew. Okay. So that's Venus as she completes the retrograde. Let's see when, as she's leaving the retrograde zone. Now I'm going to show you that 5-5 date. Edit chart data. 5, 5. Okay. And so now we're on May 5th and we're looking at Venus conjunct Neptune again. So let me highlight that for you guys. Here is Venus conjunct Neptune as she's leaving the retrograde zone. There's a sextile to Pluto, just as we had when she is connecting, when she entered the retrograde zone. We've got some communication there again. We also have some communication with Uranus once again, May 5th next year. Okay. Um, if there has been, for any one of you if there has been deception in love or deception in finances, like, um, I don't know, like a spouse trying to hide assets or money, or um, you lying to your spouse about, or your partner about how much money you make, or self-deception is also quite real. Um, like if you have been like spending as if you make a certain amount of money, but you just don't. And so there's self-deception in your financial reality, right? If there has been financial deception or love-based deception or financial deception in a love-based situation, this is when, as we conclude the Venus retrograde, that gets exposed. That gets like kind of really blown out of the water. Like it's going to be seeable in a way it can't be unseen. So, again, plenty of time between now and May 5th to rectify, come clean, restructure, reorganize, review so that you are in a place positioned to operate with some integrity with the people around you. Okay. So those are the most important dates for the Venus retrograde. Now I'm going to give you a couple of highlights between now and the beginning of January for the Mars retrograde. So first thing I want to give you guys is the dates of the Mars retrograde, because this is really going to color how we close this year, how we move into this year, next year, and it's going to be, there's a little bit of a bridge, some carryover energy into the early parts of next year because of the Mars retrograde. Now, again, I've spoken at length about Mars, and Mars is all about motivation, action, movement. In shadow, of course, we get aggression, hastiness, warlike energy, but that's not all Mars is. In the light, we see Mars as ambition, drive, passionate action toward that which we would like to see fulfilled. Okay. So, this Mars retrograde at its outset, let's just rewind. The starting point of the shadow energy for the Mars retrograde has already passed. I'm just going to quickly recap it for you because, oops, best dates for love and money 2025. We're going to go back to 2024. We're going to start on October 4th. This was the beginning of Mars in shadow. Okay. As Mars began, we see here's Mars beginning retrograde or begin entering the shadow period. Here is the opposition to Pluto. Now, on the Mars retrograde special, I spoke at length that Mars opposite Pluto is going to be a key feature of the Mars retrograde. Anytime Mars and Pluto are in a conversation of tension, it's their overlapping aspects that can really, they can bring the overlapping aspects out of one another. Where Mars and Pluto overlap, Pluto is in neutrality about light, but in shadow about death and ending, manipulation and control. Um, in the light, we see Pluto being about that resurrection energy, but it has to come through a death ending first. The overlap here is certainly, of course, that warlike energy that Mars has in shadow, where it can kind of overreact, overdo, over extend action into hastiness. So, this Mars opposition to Pluto has already, since October, especially the end of October into the beginning of November, really opened up an extraordinary amount of power struggle energy. And this power struggle energy, especially for those of you who are Americans, you may have seen this over the holidays as Mars is in the sign of family. You guys let me know here in the chat if it's true for you. That power struggle energy could have really shown itself with your family members as Mars moves through the retrograde process. And the interior power struggle between personal sovereignty, which is Mars and Leo, and connection and commitment to our familiars. That's Mars in Cancer, especially when it comes to what we need to do to control our own emotions, right? What are the inputs that feed our emotions? For some, this can really be a power struggle that has nothing to do with other people, but really about your interior journey of picking up your power and the motivation to do the right things by you. And so some of you have already seen that. I know some of my star clubbers in our member area have talked about like really being in this place with themselves where they're like, I have to up level. I cannot live here in this place I've been in anymore. I'm certainly in that place myself, in different areas of my life. Again, your personal chart is really going to hold the key to how this is going to play out for you personally, but understand that between October 4th and May 2nd of 2025, Mars opposite Pluto is having this conversation, inviting all of us to take a look at how we use power, how we use action in a way that can serve us. Okay, so we also saw as Mars kicked off a loose square with Juno, right? And then we have um, this brings in marks the entire Mars retrograde period as being about Juno things, Junian things. Juno in the zodiac represents partnership commitments, collaborations, specifically spousehood, the marriage contract and marriage commitment. And so, where we are, and there she is in her home sign, Libra. Libra is all about partnership, and we see her conjunct Mercury, which is all about communication. So, the entirety of the Mars retrograde period, it'll have sub themes. But as Mars entered this retrograde zone, it let us know the major theme has to do with power struggles and partnership and managing action, motivation, and commitment when it comes to our collaborations. Now, for some of you, this is business. Some of you really, through this Mars retrograde, are going to be handling your business partnerships and your business collaborations. Some of you are going to be tackling financial collaborations and financial partnerships. Pluto specifically deals again with investments, other people's money, inheritances, taxes, um, credit, mortgages. And so, where you've got joint finances with someone in any capacity, business or romantic, this Mars retrograde period is going to be about cleaning up where actions have been misaligned with intended outcomes in those partnerships financially. Okay. So utilize this to your advantage where you know for a fact, financially, I'm doing things and it's just misaligned. My money's over here, but my intentions are over there, right? This is where you're going to clean that up, especially if those of you who are in love triangles that have a financial component to it. This is where you really are going to be invited to pick up your own personal power and get yourself to a place of sovereignty so that your love life, your financial life can be congruent with where you want your love life to go. Okay. Some of you who know what I'm talking about, like some of you already know, like, yeah, I've been financially dependent on my ex for way too long. And it's scared off my love and trust, or the alimony is about to run out, or the child care from my ex is about to run out because my child's about to turn 18 or graduate. I need to find a way to get financially disentangled and sovereign from that past partnership. Again, Juno retrograde, Mars retrograde is going to help you find the motivation you need to get into that place of congruence and financial sovereignty as they both speak to Pluto. Okay, really exciting. But the entire series, like period of time, between now and May 2nd, where shadow ends for Mars retrograde. It's going to help you with that. So you have time. Don't waste it. Okay. These planets really are going to work to help you, but you have to take action. That's the Martian part. Okay. Next date, I want to bring our attention to in the best dates for love and money calendar during the Mars retrograde specifically. We were at October 4th to kick off. I want to go back to October 21st for us briefly. This is when we had through the new moon in Scorpio. So this really would have been November 1st. So October 21st through November 1st, that entire time period. Think back. What was going on? We saw Cardinal Grand Cross open up featuring Juno, square Mars, Mars in shadow, preparing to go retrograde. Mars opposite Pluto, Juno square Mars and Pluto. But then, as if that wasn't enough, we saw Chiron enter into the mix, right? And so here is that Chiron energy speaking, adding into the conversation where we need to check ourselves when it comes to low self-esteem, worthiness, step out of being a victim and victim consciousness, themes around rejection or not good enoughness, where that has been part of the story. That particular time period, October 21st through November 1st, would have really illuminated it for us so that we know what we need to clean up during the Mars retrograde. This, whatever came up during that period of time, October 21st, about November 2nd, 3rd, 4th, that would have been a key theme and feature, will be a key theme feature of the Mars retrograde for you, as all players will remain a part of the conversation until the end of Mars retrograde. Okay, so if this is, you're already like, okay, yeah, I need to deal with some stuff. I think Dark Skin Tarot wrote in the comment or the chat box during a live here, that's me, got to deal with that. I know I need to deal with that. You've got the entire Mars retrograde. Be strategic. Mars and Pluto together, fabulous energy for strategy, wonderful energy for being like taking strategic action. Utilize this to your advantage. You don't have to be stuck. Okay. Going forward now, past that point, I want to head into the future, but just before we close the year, um, carrying forward in the Mars retrograde solstice. This is going to be one of the better opportunities for love during the Mars retrograde. We see Venus trine Jupiter. Here we go. They're both in air signs. Air is thoughtfulness and communication. I love to see the trine whenever Venus and Jupiter are coming together, amplify one another's opportunity for love and for value. Um, they operate in this energy of opening up ways for the things we value most to come toward us just in time for the year closing, just in time for those of you who celebrate Christmas, just in time for those of you who celebrate solstice, crossing into that tilt of the axis of Earth. The southern hemisphere is going to start to cross into their dark half of the year. The northern hemisphere will start to cross into their light half of the year. A Venus Jupiter conjunction on solstice in this way. And it started before solstice. So, really, like you want to go back to like the 14th through the 16th, all the way up through maybe about the 27th of December. This energy is active. It's a beautiful time for reconnecting in love. So, if any of you want to take this opportunity to, again, like I said, next year's in the first 6 months, it's X heavy. So, if some of you feel incomplete, you want to extend an olive branch, you're ready to clear the air, release the past. This energy really supports being able to say that happy holidays, say happy new year. How you doing? Happy solstice. Open up those lines of communication. It does quite supportive for love and reconnection, even for those of you who want to meet somebody new. This is actually one of the better times to meet somebody new before we get into the first 6 months of 2025, because the first 6 months of 2025 look all about X's in the past, as I've mentioned with the Venus retrograde review. But during this Mars retrograde, there's definitely an opportunity to say something to someone new, start something with somebody new. You are going to have to overcome a little bit of maybe shyness. Um, For some of you, it'll be cloaked as entitlement with Mars and Leo, like they should be coming to me. Well, I don't understand why I should be coming. Just extend the olive branch. Just communicate, people. I love y'all, and I say it with love, but some of y'all have some funkiness around initiation. This Mars retrograde is going to reveal it to you, where you are you are playing into playing games, right? This Mars retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, the two of them in sextile, while Venus is also trining Jupiter, is going to show you where you are the holdup in your situation, where you have been letting pride and ego get in the way of just having the communication. Okay. So if you're seeing that, you're like, why are they calling me? Well, why don't you call them? Why don't you say hi? Why don't you extend the olive branch, right? Open the door, see what happens. It's okay to go first, right? Um, Kylie says the grudges be grudging. Yes, that can happen. And there's so many opportunities for connection and reconnection throughout this period of time where that energy is really going to be your holdup. It's going to be your downfall if you're holding on in that way. So this is your like little kind of like fairy astrology mother saying, just go first. It's all good. The energies support it. It's okay. You can be the first one. Let the other person follow your lead. You be the bold one. It's okay to be bold. Okay, now let's see. I want to fast forward, and now we're going to get into next year. I want to talk about January 5th. Let's start there. Oops. Edit chart data. 1/5/2025. If you've got questions, definitely um, hold them. I'm going to answer questions at the end. I'm going to start with my star clubbers. So if you guys have questions, get your questions ready, guys. So I'm going to answer your questions first. But here's January 5th. We see Mars retrograde at that 0 degree mark of Leo, opposite Pluto, tight opposition there. Both of them speaking to Uranus. And so it is a loose sextile for Mars. It's a hard square for Pluto. Yeah. Okay, so I told y'all I was going to give you mostly good news, but there were going to be a couple of warning dates in here. Most of the warning dates I'm going to talk to you about as we get to them in the lunar updates. But this one I want to bring to your attention now because some of y'all in the 30 days between now and January 5th, there's some financial cleanup changes you need to make. Uranus brings surprises and unforeseen circumstances. As I mentioned, Mars and Pluto, opposition and tension, power struggles. This combination can bring major financial changes you didn't see coming, but because Mars is retrograde and Pluto has been retrograde a few times, chances are you knew they were coming, but didn't act. I want to tell you now, utilize December. I know there's a lot of distraction energy in the month of December, family and travel and holidays and whatnot, and time off work and vacation time and kids in school and out of school. I get it. But if you know you have some sort of financial issue hanging over your head, handle it in December. You will be very glad you did by the time this energy perfects as we get into January. You do not want this energy to blindside you at the beginning of the year, just as you're shaking off the holidays. Okay? Handle this stuff now if you know you have financial pieces that have to get resolved. Okay? There we go. Love to share that with y'all. This is a very important time to handle that stuff. Let's move forward. I'm going to take us to January 21st next. Okay, cool. Here we go. January 21st with Venus conjunct Saturn trine Mars. So here's Venus, Here's Saturn. They're both speaking to that Mars retrograde on January 21st. This is interesting because I love to see this kind of energy. I think I mentioned some of this during the Venus retrograde conversation that I was having with you guys. Still have Mars in opposition to Pluto. We still have power struggle energy in the air. Some of it, again, some of this for some of y'all is going to be internal. But one of the things I really wanted to point out is that this, for some of you, is where passion turns into commitment. When Venus and Mars are in harmony, and they are in water signs, which they are, there's emotional, spiritual connection. Saturn wants to solidify the connection, make it real, bring it into some form of realness. We also see, like I mentioned, Neptune is part of the programming here as Venus is in shadow, wanting to clear the decks, wanting to elevate, bring in that higher level love. There's Uranus. So that last week of January is so beautiful for love and connection. Um, it's really a matter of getting out of our own way. Okay. Again, some financial rigmarole drama for those who have been dragging their feet about dealing with financial issues, but those of you who have been on top of it, you really should be okay. Okay. Um, and then let me just see here. The next Mars retrograde date I was guided to look at for you guys. We're gonna skip ahead to February now. I'm gonna take y'all to the end of Mars retrograde because Mars is moving a little bit slower than Venus. So there we are at the end of the Mars retrograde, February 23rd. And this really brings us smack to the beginning of Juno retrograde. There's a couple of dates around that I want to point out to you guys, but we'll get to those in a minute. Here is the end of Mars retrograde, February 23rd. It's definitely going to be later in the day than 5:06 p.m. when this was recorded. But here's Mars wrapping up retrograde at that 17th degree of Cancer. It is going to be, we see sextile there to Uranus. We see trine to Saturn. We see trine to Mercury, which is really nice. We see Mercury direct there. And this combination of energies, I really love to see it. We also see a square, loose square to Chiron. But this is letting us know that the Mars retrograde themes are starting to come to completion. Whatever may have shown up financially, that could have been a challenge. As Mars wraps up retrograde, this harmony with Chiron and harmony with Uranus is going to give us the enlightenment we need to finally bring to completion and resolution that which has undermined or not served us, specifically in our power dynamics and our interpersonal relationships, but definitely when it comes to the way we've been dealing with money and things that we value otherwise. For some of you, this is going to be about your time. For others of you, this is going to be about, your resources. Maybe some of you have been lending a car to someone. It's like, okay, I can't lend you a car anymore. You need to find your own transportation. You need to make a boundary around that with Saturn here. Or maybe some of you have been, you know, borrowing things from other people, not having your own, and like you're ready to find your own home, have your own sovereignty, live under your own steam as this Mars goes direct. Saturn, Chiron, and Uranus and Mercury are really going to help you have the insight, the illumination, the healing, the clarity to be able to like jump in this capacity to your next chapter. So I love to see it, especially as we get into the end of February, beginning of March. I said it in the last lunar update. Some of you are really going to feel like, oh, wow, my new year started in December, November, December of 2024, and you're already like driving toward the goals you have for 2025 now. For others of you, it's going to be a little slower of a process. You're really not going to feel like your new year began until Mars goes direct. And that will be this February 23rd, 24th of 2025. As we clock into March, it's when you're really going to start to feel like, oh, I can breathe. Like I'm out of everything I carried from 2024 into 2025. So, either one is good, neither one is bad. The only thing I have a caution around is if you've got financial issues hanging over your head, confront them as directly as you can. Okay, I want to take us to the date Mars shadow ends. Okay, thank you so much, Kylie. Yes, if you're listening and you're finding value in what you're listening to, definitely hit that like button. If you're new here, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when I'm live in the future and you can be a part of the conversation. Now we're at finally the end of Mars being in shadow at that 6th degree of Leo. That is the end of the Mars retrograde conversation for about a year and a half. Thank goodness. Mars concluding is going to be speaking in harmony with Venus, with Neptune, with Saturn. This is going to be a beautiful energy of commitment and stabilization. For some of you, yes, this will be financially and monetarily as you have done the cleanup you've needed to do. But for many, instead, this is really going to be more focused on love. And for some of you, it looks like it's more focused on self-love, especially as we've completed that Venus retrograde period. Leo is our sign of self-sovereignty, where Mars motivation sits as he completes his retrograde. Aries is the sign of the individual and the self. We see Venus, Neptune, and Saturn here. It's a beautiful spiritual energy of commitment. It really allows us to meld third and fifth dimension, higher consciousness, and lived reality. I love to see it. We do see at this time, except for Juno and a couple of the other asteroids, all planets direct as we get into May, which I think is going to feel like a relief. Some people are really going to feel like they haven't shaken off 2024 until they get into Mars coming out of shadow in May of 2025. And if that's the case, totally okay. Just handle what you need to handle step by step. It's the end of the power struggle with Mars opposing Pluto as Mars continues his journey forward into Leo. Pluto only gets to the 3rd degree of Aquarius this year before turning back for retrograde. Okay, so really positive energy, very personally empowering as we get to the tail end. For many people, I've talked about this in my Star Club group. If you'd like to be a member of my community where we practice, learn, and share astrology together, the link for the waitlist is below this video. But I've spoken to them at length about this. Pluto always starts with some form of death or ending or something that conjures up fear, shame, or rage. So, if these were the experiences you've had as we kicked off the beginning of Mars retrograde, fear is really here to reveal to us where we have more power that we may not necessarily believe or know that we have it, but it's definitely there. We just have to exercise it. Shame lets us know where we've allowed someone or we personally have chosen to cross our own moral code. Rage lets us know where we have a boundary that we need to better protect. Okay. So, where these themes, Plutonian in nature, as Mars has opposed Pluto, have shown up in the last 30 days as Mars has been in shadow in 2024. If you're listening to this in 2025 and there's one situation that has really made you fearful or really made you ashamed or really made you enraged, utilize these tools to come back to your personal power and make the required choices to get on a different path. These planets are trying to empower you, I promise. And Pluto ultimately wants you to live an empowered life, but it's a matter of being willing to make the choices and get the support needed to make said choices to be in an empowered life stream. Okay, now that's the end of the retrograde period. The next part's going to go by quick. I'm going to run through some dates between February and December of 2025. They're the best dates for love and money. Those retrograde dates, there's a lot to unpack there for each person personally based on their chart. Like I mentioned, this is December of 2025 when I'm recording this. For you guys on YouTube, one of the 30-minute sessions that were available for the month of December did sell out while I've been talking. There's one left. It's next Friday. Definitely grab that 30-minute session if you want to talk through any of that retrograde stuff more directly and personally based on your chart. Now let's get into more of the fun stuff. Let's go ahead and start with February 21st through March 5th. That time period is going to be a lot of fun. February 21st, 2025. There we go. Okay, we do see that. Did I get that right? February 21st, 2025. Here we see Venus retrograde sextile Jupiter. We also see this whenever we see Venus Venus sextiling Jupiter, it's harmonious for love. It's a great time, especially because Jupiter is direct. Jupiter is in the sign of communication. Jupiter represents expansion and opportunity. Venus in Aries, not her favorite place to be when it comes to sharing love with other people, but it can increase our self-affinity and self-love and self-confidence in certain ways, which will be very helpful for those who want to take the initiative to open the door, extend the olive branch to other people. Okay. Now, during this period of time, Venus is in shadow. She will be preparing, I believe, to go retrograde. Let me just double check her retrograde degrees. 10 degrees Aries, so she's almost there. She is in shadow. She's going to go back to the 24th degrees Pisces. This is the right time for any of you who want to go back to the past, open up a linkage to the past, just reconnect in a new way. Perfect time to do that at this particular time. Again, that is February 21st through March 5th. It is indicative of the listener of my voice being the one who reaches out. Okay, we do see Venus speaking and square to that Mars, but that instigates a lot of passion. So if you want to be the one to reach out, definitely recommend it. As we move through this period, we see Juno um, speaking to that Venus, little bit of a trine there. Lots of opportunity with Juno and Sagittarius for speaking truth. She's at the one of the final degrees before she goes retrograde. Speaking truth with faith, hope, and optimism in Sagittarius, your own truth, that's Venus in Aries. Communication is opened up there with Jupiter in Gemini. But this is really a self-initiated one. If you're looking for somebody to reach out to you, they might, but if you're the one holding cards, unspoken words, this is the time to clean it up. Okay, fast forwarding. We're going to skip ahead now to June. Because the other major dates I have already pretty much covered in the Venus and Mars retrograde period with more to come, dot, dot, dot. When it comes to Juno retrograde, and we'll have a special just dedicated to that. Here we go, June 25th, we see a new moon in Cancer. Happy early birthday to all the Cancers. It's going to be a fabulous birthday for y'all. That new moon in Cancer is conjunct Jupiter. And actually, my bad. I did want to talk about June 5th first. Let me do that. 6-5. There we go. 6-5. There we see Venus sextile Jupiter. Both of them are direct, as I mentioned previously. Here's Jupiter. Here's Venus. Venus is conjunct Chiron. Jupiter is conjunct Mercury. They are in a sextile. And we see Venus trine Mars, passionate, steamy, flirty, could even be touchy-feely, cuddly if you want it to be. We also see Mars sextile Jupiter. This could definitely open up, some intimate time. That's the best word I can use on this platform between two people. It's I like to see this. There's also an interesting energy here with Saturn square Mars. It's got a little bit of restraint and balance to it. Um, this opens up a lot of really fun energy when it comes to flirtation. Certain things could be sudden, come out of nowhere, unexpected, with Uranus being sextile to both Venus and Jupiter. This is where you may see reciprocation or somebody else taking the initiative around June 5th. But again, if these planets are nudging you, prompting you, it's on your spirit to go ahead and connect with someone, definitely do it. Utilize this energy to your advantage. It's a great time. It looks like advances could be well received, presuming, there's mutual interest. Now we'll get to 625. Let's go there next. Okay. Uh, yes, Kylie. So for those of you listening to this recording, moderator Kylie has added eggplant emoji or non-eggplant emoji, depending upon your style. Eggplant emoji or avocado, depending upon your preferences. Let's go ahead to June 25th. We have that lovely new moon in Cancer carrying on this beautiful June energy of love and connection. Spicy times is right, Kylie. Um, we see the square to Saturn conjunct Neptune down here. And we see some proximity between Venus and Uranus at this new moon. And so this could, like I said, June is one of the best months for love overall, all year long in 2025. This just extends it. Saturn and Neptune want that higher level love and commitment. That's a square. There's some restraint here afforded to Jupiter, who can kind of go a little too hard, especially in communication with Neptune, but with Saturn, so it's sitting right on top of Neptune, it's tempering the desire to kind of get lost in illusion, and it really keeps both feet on the ground, more balanced love connection energy. Venus Uranus is bringing love surprises, and that extends until July 2nd or through July 2nd and a little bit after. When Venus and Uranus conjunct, they'll both also be sextile to Mercury there in Cancer as well, trying to where's the trine? South node and then okay, nothing trine, but this is good. I love to see this combo here. While Jupiter is conjunct the sun, for some of you, this is when you get proposed to. For some of you, this is when your person may out of the blue say, let's just make it just us, get exclusive. Because this is Cancer, we're talking about homes and family. Unexpected introductions to family could happen here. This could also be where you and your person just kind of decide over a weekend, let's just move in together. Let's just do it. This is all available during the month of June, especially as we get into the end of June, beginning of July. Beautiful energy for surprises that are harmonious, good, beneficial, things you want in love. Now, caveat emptor, Juno's retrograde. So know your audience, like this, it's really important to be attuned to the other person. Juno's not only retrograde, but she's opposite Uranus and Venus conjunct during this period of time. So if I would say for those who are already on the path moving in that direction, perfect. But if you're going to come out of nowhere with the surprise, maybe start small. Extend the olive branch. Work your way up to hanging out. Then work your way, like gauge the waters with Juno retrograde. Okay, moving on to July 19th. We're speeding through now, the end of the into the second half of the year. And there we go. Beautiful energy again. July 19th, we see Venus sextile Mars. Here's Venus here, or Venus square Mars. Beautiful energy there. That's always passionate when Venus and Mars are in square. Another word, thank you for the euphemism, Kylie, spicy times. That's definitely an option with Venus square Mars. We also see Mars sextiling Juno there. Juno finally done with her retrograde. There's a lot of clarity as Juno completes her retrograde. She will be conjunct to Lilith and Vesta. We'll talk about it in a separate special, but this is really letting us know that what we need for commitment, we are clear about. Mars gives us the motivation to jump into it. The Venusian aspects makes us like nice and spicy, zesty, giving us, some frisky times during the month of July for those who are up for frisky times. There's not a lot of commitment stability in this energy yet, but it's coming. Okay. Let's skip ahead to August 12th. Data 8, 12. Now, let's see here. Okay. August 12th. This is probably the best day for love the entire year. We see Jupiter and Venus conjunct. The two of them are trine to Juno, who is conjunct Vesta and Lilith. And the two of them in this water trine, or the five of them in this beautiful water trine, this is, I would say, personally, the best day for love all year long. For some, this is definitely proposal engagement. For others, this is definitely commitment coming into some level of let's make it official, let's make it real. For other people, this is when you may really see just some sort of like step ahead or like consistency begin to form in the emotional bonds expression in the third dimension. I've talked about this a lot for those of you who consider yourself divine counterparts or twin flames. The connections are really trying to push out of the fifth dimension into the third dimension to stabilize and make themselves real. But there's a lot of personal participation required for that to happen in terms of, like I mentioned earlier, with the retrogrades, forgiveness work, letting go work, clean slating work for yourself, getting into neutral state where you can letting go of pain and past stories and projections. If you're able to do that in the first 6 months of the year, really seven, if you want to count December, the month that we're recording this in, as we get into the second half of 2025 is when you start to see connections do a brand new thing. I'm talking brand, like something real new, real different. You ain't never seen this before. You didn't know it could be this good, but you thought it could be. As we get into August of 2025, this is where like all of June and it just builds. June, July, August is the best of it. Lots of really positive energy for love for those of you, not just in divine connections, but just looking for love generally. Okay. That's August 12th. Let's fast forward to September 7th. So roughly about a month later, 9/7/2025, almost in the home stretch here. This is when we see Juno connected to Vesta. Vesta is about dedication. She's about the marriage commitment. We see Jupiter connected to her, husband and wife, water trine. Add to that Saturn. Saturn connected to Neptune, right? This grand water trine is where commitment really stabilizes. And if you want to add to that, we certainly see um, a little bit of Venus square Juno. This can be very empowering for Juno energy. But like I said, Juno represents the marriage contract bond and commitment, Vesta's dedication. Saturn is all about the establishment of boundaries and making something real in the third dimension. Jupiter represents opportunity, also represents husbands. Juno represents wives. I don't know that I need to interpret that further for you guys. I think you kind of got it. It's what I've been saying all along. There's really this steady build from May, June, July, August into September for the establishment of commitment. And whatever that means or looks like to you, especially with Jupiter in Cancer, this could really be about the involvement of family and children and living together, if that's what you want. But if you don't want that, if what you prefer is we want to be married, but we want to live separately, that's available too. The duality is also available, especially as Uranus enters Gemini. We have an opposition to Juno. Something non-traditional could absolutely work in this energy in marriage bonds. And it does look like it takes a lot of communication to make it work and a lot of understanding. But if that's what you want, you can have that. This energy really talks about moving into a place of what sort of commitment works for us. What sort of bond works for us? Kylie, don't do that. Love, 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 love. All y'all should be drunk. Um, Listening to the recording, just check the chat for what that was about. But beautiful energy here for taking and establishing something in the third in that's got an emotional bond to it, making it real in the third dimension. Okay. So that's September 7th. Let's get to September 21st. We love to see it. 9/21. On September 21st, and there's only one, two, three, four dates I'm going to give you before we conclude and wrap up after September 21st for next year. So if you want to start putting your questions in the chat, you can. For my Star Club members, if you want to go ahead and raise your hand, I'll call on you in the order in which your hand was raised to do the Q&A portion of our time together today. September 21st. We see Juno, Jupiter, and Saturn in that grand water trine. As I mentioned, there's Juno, there's Saturn, there's Jupiter. It continues from the beginning. Um, uh, for some of you, this is really going to be about closing out an ascetic or monastic lifestyle. There's a lot of you I've spoken to, and you're like, I have been single for 10 years, 12 years. 7 years. I haven't been with anybody for a decade, right? 5 years, 3 years, whatever your ascetic life, monastic lifestyle is. This configuration could put an end up like a real end to that for you. But again, the preparation work to come out of that, to release old stories, release old people, release old people from stories you have about them so that they can be new, right? They can show up new. In order for that to happen, the work of the first 6 months of the year has to be done. Now, for some of you, it's going to be a new person that comes in and you commit to, and y'all are connected and bonded. But in order for you to have this level of new, you do have to release the past. And that's a lot of what Juno's retrograde in Scorpio is going to be about, laying the old bones to rest, releasing old stories, giving it up. If you're done being monastic, the first 6 months of this year are really where you're going to get your freedom. But it's gonna be a lot of work. I'm gonna tell you that now, but it's gonna be worth it by the time we get to the last 3 months of 2025. Really beautiful time in love. Let's move on to October and get to the 17th of October of 2025. Now we see Venus here. She is sextiling. What is she sextiling? She's trine Pluto. She's sextiling Juno. Really beautiful time for some financial stuff going on here. Some financial empowerment for a lot of people. Any of the work you may have done in the first part of the year to reorganize finances, either in the spending, the earning, or the debt departments, you're going to see that really pay off here. Because we also see Jupiter sextile Uranus here. For some of you, this is going to be promotion with a raise. For some of you, this will be a promotion without a raise. And for some of you, this is going to be a raise that does not come with a promotion. I know we all like promotions and raises to be tied together, but we also all know that that's not always the case. We also see, because Jupiter will trine the Saturn Mars configuration here, for many, again, this is really going to be an opportunity for an elevation in status and visibility in the last 90 days of 2025. So I love to see it. There is a really beautiful gifting in this for all of you, all of us collectively, not just in love, but also in money. We really start to hit more of the money components as we get to the tail end of the year. That summer it really reads like a summer of love. And as we close out the year, we start to get into some of the financial foundation pieces after the cleanup of the first 6 months of the year. Okay, so moving on, let's see, October 17th. Now we're going to go to November. Second to last date here. And I'm going to, again, Star Clubbers, I'm going to talk to y'all first. So get your questions ready. November 19th. Okay. November 19th, here we see Mercury, we see Sun, we see Lilith, we see Moon, we see Venus. All kind of lined up together. This configuration, and Mercury's retrograde, it's the new moon in Scorpio here as we get to November 19th of 2025. This combo it's a great combo for both love and money. It's a little challenging with Venus and Scorpio. Venus is not always giving her best, doing her best in Scorpio. Sometimes she can fall into patterns that don't really serve in Scorpio. But what I will say is with the Mars retrograde, this is going to give us an opportunity to put some periods on sentences that haven't had conclusion. So, especially with Lilith here, Lilith really speaks to a particular type of personal empowerment when it comes to knowing what we want and knowing what we don't want at a new moon in Scorpio and really utilizing that for directing our lives and guiding our lives. The Mercury retrograde just adds this energy of, and another thing, especially because Mercury is going to be opposite Uranus. There may be some communication that comes out of left field, especially if you left doors or strings or threads open to other individuals. Like, I guess the people call it getting ghosted these days. If you ghosted someone over the course of 2025, this may be when you hear about it. You may also find during this period of time you get ghosted. However, if there is, you want to utilize this energy for the resolution of communication that creates completion, closes a chapter, so that you're free to open up a new chapter in love. Venus speaking to this new moon and Lilith speaking to this new moon in Scorpio is a great time to conclude, tie up loose ends so that you can focus when it comes to your love life. We also see Saturn trine this Venus conjunct the new moon. So for some of you, this is where you'll find, okay, I have been financially scattered or in my love life, romantically scattered. This new moon in Scorpio is when you really start to hone in on focus, doing one thing, doing it well, committing, doubling down, staying really focused. And the Mars conjunct Juno there in Sagittarius gives you the clarity about what you really do want to focus on and letting everything else go. Again, my counsel would just be, don't ghost people. That's not nice. Let them know, like this just isn't aligned for me. It's not what I want. Thank you for your time. Goodbye. That's all you need to say. Doesn't need to be more complex than that. Okay, November 25th and then December 19th, and we're done. November 25th, we see Mercury retrograde here, conjunct Venus and Lilith. They're all a little bit close in proximity to the sun there. Okay. We also see further trine to Saturn. Okay. And where is Jupiter? Here, trine Jupiter. Mars and Juno conjunct. There's a lot of motivation for partnership there and clarity about partnership. We see Uranus opposing this Venus-Mercury conjunction. And where is Pluto having a conversation there? Pluto's sort of involved in all the conversations, actually. Got an opposition to Jupiter. We've got loose sextile to Venus and Mercury. I would say if you can, just steer clear. This is one of the warning dates. As I said, I wasn't going to do too many of those here. I'm going to save those for each lunar update and sprinkle them in as needed. If you can, steer clear of romantic advances and surprises on this date. Venus is a little too close in degree to Uranus. Romantic surprises, as Venus speaks to Uranus, they tend to go a little less well. So just wait until Venus is all the way in Sagittarius or do it back here when Venus is in her home sign, Libra. Those are the best times for the romantic surprises. Lastly, but not leastly, I'll take us to the new moon in Sagittarius. Roughly 1 year from now, December 19th. Let's have a look. Here is our new moon in Sagittarius. Sun and moon are conjunct Juno and Venus. Mars is in the mix. So pretty. I love to see it. We see hey, yeah, this, and then we see a nice trine there to Chiron, bringing in Chiron's higher aspects, which are all about healing, teaching, guiding, leading, instructing other people. Great opportunity for love. Great. And this really sort of looks like, especially because we see Jupiter here in trine with Saturn and Neptune. This looks for many people, this is proposal energy, it's commitment energy, it's new beginning, fresh start energy in love. Also with money as well. For some of you, this looks like it could be, just sort of a solidification of your status with at your job. If you've got like a promotion that was a secret for a while, this looks like where the announcement could get made. Really beautiful energy in particular for love, but yes, also for money. Opportunity here for things to solidify. It is proposal energy after like a long period of trials. Getting to this point could be quite messy for some, but it looks like it could be like some let's dive in. Let's just take a chance. Let's see how this goes. I'm ready, you're ready. I'm here, you're here. Kind of new beginning energy. Mercury, Juno, Venus, Sun, and Mars, that combination conjunct the new moon, they all stay locked in together through December 31st of 2025, bringing this commitment energy into stabilizing Capricorn from truth-telling and optimistic Sagittarius. And that is a great way to start 2026. And there we have it. Best dates for love and money as we move through 2025. First 6 months of the year, ton of cleanup. But as we close the year, ton of opportunity if we're willing to do that cleanup work. There is, like I mentioned, one 30-minute session left next Friday. If you would like to book that before we close out 2024, I'd be happy to chat with you. I'm going to turn to my Star Club members. I know we've been here a little longer than I anticipated. Just want to make sure I was thorough. Who has questions? I see there's a couple questions in the YouTube chat, but before I get to them, I really want to prioritize you guys as members of our Star Club group. What questions can I answer? You can unmute yourself and let me know. Now is the time. Oh, thank you for the hearts, guys. Really appreciate it. Let me come over to the YouTube chat and just see what we have here. Awesome.
Hi, Kay. Can I ask one question?
Yeah, go for it. Thank you so much, Natalie. Welcome.
Well, one thing I was thinking, I was kind of talking to the other girls in the chat about the metaphysical business, like metaphysical businesses, or um, this kind of side of the business sector, how that might see a surge once the Pisces North Node comes into play.
Mm.
Curious.
Like, so starting a metaphysical business when the North Node moves into Pisces, how could that impact starting a metaphysical business?
Right.
Just making sure I understood. Thank you so much. Great question. So let me go back to now. Okay. So we are all collectively at this place where the North Node is in Aries before it begins an extended stay in Pisces. Where the North Node goes, our collective growth flows and follows. During the North Node in Aries period of time, collectively, we've all been starting to work on solidifying our own identity. What are our true ambitions? Who or what is our true self? What for me is a true action? What actions are actually aligned for me and which ones are not, right? And how do I begin to live in a body in a way that's congruent and truthful for my own identity? What is my identity? What is my identity now? And what is it no longer? Putting down the identity I've previously had. So many of you have been through a lot of metamorphosis, a lot of shape shifting through the North Node in Aries year and a half. Now the North Node's about to move into Pisces and bring our collective growth into the sign that deals with imagination, intuition, illusion, yes, the arts, and our subconscious, collective subconscious, and connection to all that is spirituality and spiritual concepts. So, in terms of starting a metaphysical business during a North Node in Pisces season, I think it's fabulous because collectively, the North Node is going to open up for a lot of people curiosity, interest, draw toward North Node in Pisces themes. And so, anything you're doing that's helping people in the arena of spiritual growth, understanding their subconscious mind, expanding their intuition, enhancing their capacity to work in the arts. We're going to see this really give, like blossom during this year and a half, 18 months. North Node travels Pisces. Okay. The one thing I want to make sure that I mention, and I talked about this in the lunar eclipse dates for the North Node in Pisces. You can find that live preview in the live section, but also in the playlist for um, lunar updates for 2024. The eclipse cycle for the North Node in Pisces years is lunar focused. It's lunar heavy. So there are a lot of closures. For many people, some of the closures that they are going to experience are going to be psychic closures and completions before they are third dimensional closures and completions. And so people may go through these periods of emotional upheaval, tumult, disconnection, disillusionment before something shifts in their third dimensional reality. So, people who operate metaphysical businesses, again, that really help people connect to their own tuition, connect to their higher self, connect to their subconscious mind so they can understand why they do what they do. The more you're doing this sort of work with people, the better you are slated to fare as the North Node transits Pisces and people get drawn to wanting to unpack and discover these sorts of things for themselves. So, 3 thumbs up. Great question. Thank you so much. And let's see, are there any other questions from Star Club members here before I turn to the YouTube chat? None? Flickerine asks, first half of the year, Mars is in the 8th house, Pluto in the 2nd house. What do I need to deal with? Juno in the 11th house was my sun and moon through her retrograde, and Venus is in the 3rd and 4th. That's a lot of astrological detail, Flickerine, for me to be able to break that down. I also need to see where your natal planets are. I'm not going to be able to answer that on a live. Um, but I will say that if you can kind of really pay attention to what personal planets they are going to be talking to and what houses those natal planets govern, you'll have your answer. And again, if you want me to decode that, there's a 30-minute reading left next Friday. I'm happy to break it down in exquisite detail for you. Dark Skin Tarot says, what's the work? It's going to depend on your chart, but definitely the work is in the first 6 months of the year, has everything to do with cleaning up any sort of power struggles you have in money, in love, with the past, so that you're free to live in the present. Um, thank you so much. And yeah, those are our questions. So we're going to conclude here. Been such a privilege to do this with you. I hope you guys can book this, write your pertinent dates down in the comment section if you need to. Anytime you come back to a video, I notice YouTube leaves your personal comment at the top for you to be able to see. So if you'd like to be able to come back to your notes, just save this video to your playlist and you'll be able to revisit this as we move through 2025. Really a pleasure to do this with you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Thank you so much to my awesome moderator, Kylie. I really appreciate you being here and directing traffic while I provided all of this astrological detail. It's a lot of fun to be able to do this. You guys are an amazing crew to work with. I'm honored by the people who show up here on my YouTube. You all are extraordinary souls. I have found you to be some of the most loving, kind, non-judgmental, optimistic way showers I have ever encountered. And it's just a privilege to be able to serve you and work with you and work for you. Thanks so much, everyone. I'll see you at the next lunar update. Take great care and bye for now.